I had no options. I was a horrible student. I'd call myself curious before I'd call myself smart. But, my mother, I don't know if you would remember this, but maybe other people my age, you get these scholastic book order forms that you'd bring home from school and you could order books. Anyway, one time there was a coil radio that you could order with an earpiece, and you put this coil radio together, and with an earpiece, no battery. It was just the electromagnetic radiation would activate the coil, and the coil you could listen to radio chatter. Electromagnetic radiation would hit the coil, and the coil would feed up to an amplifier or up to an earpiece, and the earpiece you could hear chatter, and you could. But at any rate, that was the first time I got a radio, and I was hearing things, and I'd put it together, and I'm listening to things, and
what kind of things?
HF radio, VHF radio, people talking, that type of stuff, and it was just. And then I found out how to get an antenna to make the antenna larger, and started ordering auxiliary pieces for it. And then really changed me was my mother let me get my mother and I would clean houses. His name was Phil Culp. And he had an old 286SX IBM. And it was just sitting in his basement. And I told my mom, I was like, hey, if I clean for like a month, can I have that computer? He's got a new 486 up in his place here. And he instantly said I could have it. And then that started me down the computer networking realm and like, look, how could I get this 286 to act like a 386? Or how could I force it to run Windows? Or how do I update the memory? In this little town, Edinburgh, North Dakota, there was a guy who had a computer store in a basement of an old general store. And his name was Jeff Munsabrotten. And I would go there and ask him questions about computers and just start learning like ins and outs on how do I update the RAM. How could I force this thing to run Windows 3.1 so I could have a GUI instead of using a command line? And that, for me, like I said, I had all kinds of problems with attention deficit disorder and not being able to pay attention. That was the only time I would go for 3 days. I mean, I remember I would spend 2 days working on a problem and not sleeping.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's a superpower.